The Duggar brand was built on one massive, untouchable concept: that children are an absolute blessing from God, the center of the universe, and the entire purpose of a fundamentalist marriage. For years, we were sold the image of the perfect, ever-expanding family. But what happens when the cameras turn off, the facade shatters, and the walls of a prison cell close in? During the most catastrophic, life-altering moment of their entire existence, Joseph and Kendra Duggar managed to have a nearly 5-minute jailhouse phone call. They talked about their legal strategy. They talked about solitary confinement. They talked about reading the Bible. But here is the chilling detail that is sending shockwaves across the internet. In that entire recorded conversation, not one single word was spoken about their 4 children. They didn't ask how they were doing. They didn't ask who was comforting them. They completely, utterly ignored them. If this leaked phone call sent chills down your spine, you are in the right place. We are diving deep into the exclusive theories and the dark psychology behind the collapse of TLC's most famous fundamentalist family. To make sure you never miss a single recent update as this massive scandal unfolds, take a second right now to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us cut through the narratives and bring you the raw, unfiltered truth. Now, let's get into the dark reality of what is really going on behind closed doors. For years, Joseph and Kendra were perfectly positioned as TLC's resident baby-making machine. To the viewers of 19 Kids and Counting and its spin-off, Counting On, they were the ultimate success story of the Institute in Basic Life Principles. When they got married in the fall of 2017, they immediately set to work fulfilling the mandate to multiply. They were popping out kids in rapid succession, eventually welcoming 4 children before the public even fully realized what was happening. They sold the audience on a very specific, highly curated idea: that their entire existence revolved around raising the next generation of devout, happy, and obedient fundamentalists. We all remember the television specials. We saw the bright smiles, the modest clothing, the enormous family gatherings, and heard the constant, overwhelming rhetoric about how every single child is a precious, irreplaceable gift. They were the golden couple, the ones who seemed to effortlessly embody the strict religious ideals passed down by Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar. Kendra was famous for her sweet demeanor and her signature giggle, portraying the absolute picture-perfect image of a submissive, joyful homemaker. The public was led to believe that behind the gates of the Duggar compound, life was a continuous, joyful celebration of family and faith. But exclusive theories and deep dives into the psychology of this highly insular group tell a very different, deeply disturbing story. The golden era was nothing more than a false image, a meticulously crafted television product designed to keep the reality TV checks rolling in while hiding the incredibly dark, rigid reality of their day-to-day lives. The disconnect between the acoustic guitar background music of their television show and the cold, hard metal of a county jail cell is jarring. How does a couple go from smiling on magazine covers to sitting behind bars, completely detached from the offspring they claim to cherish? To truly understand how 2 parents could sit on a recorded jailhouse phone call and completely forget to mention their 4 traumatized children, we have to look at the first cracks in the foundation. The warning signs were always there, hidden in plain sight. The IBLP cult, which the Duggars have famously promoted and profited from for decades, teaches a deeply troubling philosophy regarding children. In this worldview, parents demand absolute, unquestioning obedience. The literature and seminars promoted by the group prioritize rigid, uncompromising discipline over any kind of genuine emotional connection. Children are not viewed as individual human beings with their own thoughts, feelings, and emotional needs to be nurtured. Instead, they are viewed as property. They are assets to be managed, trained, and controlled. This is a system where concepts like blanket training and first-time obedience are enforced from infancy. If you are unfamiliar with these exclusive theories of fundamentalist child-rearing, it involves forcing a baby to sit on a small blanket, and if they move off of it, they are physically disciplined. The emotional detachment required to raise children in this manner is staggering. When you are taught that your primary job as a parent is to break a child's will and force them into submission, the natural biological instincts of parental warmth and protective empathy are systematically stripped away. The parents themselves become emotionally stunted, viewing their relationship with their offspring merely as a hierarchy of power. This is the crucial context that explains the unimaginable. The chilling omission on that phone call wasn't just a momentary lapse in judgment. It was the ultimate horrifying reflection of a belief system that fundamentally devalues the emotional lives of children. They didn't ask about the kids because, in their deeply conditioned minds, the children are merely extensions of their own authority, not separate people who might be suffering, terrified, and crying for their mother and father. When the authority structure collapsed, their interest in the children simply vanished. And then came the catalyst, the devastating, earth-shattering action that sparked the complete and total downfall of Joseph and Kendra Duggar. It all imploded in a matter of days, a rapid-fire sequence of events in March of 2026 that left the public absolutely reeling. First, the dark secrets of the past caught up with Joseph. In a shocking turn of events that horrifyingly mirrored the crimes of his older brother Josh, Joseph Duggar was arrested for alleged crimes stemming from a family vacation to Florida in 2020. The charges leveled against him by the Bay County Sheriff's Office were stomach-turning: lewd and lascivious molestation of a minor under 12 years old, and lewd and lascivious behavior conducted by an adult. The facade of the righteous, wholesome Christian man evaporated in an instant, replaced by the grim reality of an arrest warrant, handcuffs, and a deeply unsettling mugshot. But the nightmare didn't end there, and the plot twist that followed is what truly shattered the remaining fragments of their family image. Just days after Joseph was taken into custody, the Department of Human Services and the Tontitown Police descended upon the couple's Arkansas home for an inspection. During this search, authorities made a horrifying discovery that directly involved the environment they had created for their offspring. They found locks installed on the exterior of the children's bedroom doors. Think about the sheer psychological terror of that detail. Why would you need to lock children inside their rooms from the outside? It is not only a massive fire hazard, but it paints a picture of isolation, control, and absolute confinement. This chilling discovery led directly to an arrest warrant for Kendra Duggar. The sweet, giggling reality star was booked into the Washington County Detention Center on 4 counts of endangering the welfare of a minor and 4 counts of false imprisonment. In less than a week, the family structure completely and totally imploded. Both parents were facing severe criminal charges, ripped away from their home and thrust into the glaring, unforgiving spotlight of the criminal justice system. The children, the very ones they had used to build their wholesome brand, were removed from this terrifying environment. It was the ultimate catastrophic collapse of everything they had built. The stage was set for the legal scramble of their lives, leading right up to the moment Joseph picked up the receiver in the Washington County Jail to make a collect call to his newly bonded-out wife. They thought they were being smart. They thought they were strategizing. But they were about to expose exactly who they really are to the entire world. When the heavy steel doors of the Washington County Detention Facility slammed shut, you would think the gravity of the situation would finally break through the deeply ingrained conditioning of their reality television upbringing. You would assume that hitting rock bottom would strip away the facade and reveal the raw, desperate, beating heart of a mother and a father separated from their brood. But that is exactly where the cover-up and the staggering hubris of the Duggar family machinery kicked into high gear. When Joseph picked up that jailhouse phone to make a collect call to Kendra, who had just managed to bond out and retreat into hiding, they both operated under the delusion that they were entirely in control of the situation. They thought they were just having a private, highly strategic chat about their immediate legal survival and public relations management. They approached the phone call with the same calculating, image-obsessed mindset that they used when staging a family picnic for the TLC camera crews. In their minds, they were the untouchable reality stars, the favored children of a wealthy, influential family that had historically managed to bury every single scandal that threatened their empire. Jim Bob Duggar had always made the problems go away. He had smoothed over police reports, paid off lawyers, and spun a narrative of Christian redemption and family unity that kept the fans coming back. Joseph and Kendra clearly believed that this catastrophic event would be no different. They thought they could simply wait it out, coordinate their stories, and eventually re-emerge with a carefully crafted statement about spiritual warfare and the trials of the faithful. They were so wrapped up in their own hubris, so utterly consumed by the need to protect their own skins, that they committed the cardinal sin of the modern criminal justice system. They completely forgot that every single word spoken on a jailhouse phone is recorded, monitored, and heavily scrutinized by law enforcement. There are massive, unmissable signs posted right above the telephones in those pods. There is a robotic voice that interrupts the call to remind both parties that their conversation is subject to recording. Yet the arrogance born from years of getting away with toxic behavior blinded them to the reality that they were no longer dealing with friendly television producers who would edit out their worst moments. They were dealing with the state, and the state was listening. And then the inevitable happened. The leak. The exposure. Through public records requests and the relentless digging of independent journalists and true crime researchers, the audio of that infamous phone call dropped, and the internet exploded. It spread like wildfire, dissected in every corner of social media, completely shattering whatever tiny fragments of their wholesome image remained. Listening to the audio is an absolutely surreal, stomach-churning experience. You don't hear a terrified father weeping for his shattered family. You don't hear a mother frantic with worry about the psychological state of her locked-up children. Instead, you hear Joseph Duggar, a man facing horrifying, life-altering charges, whining with a bizarre sense of entitlement. He complains about the conditions of his cell. He complains about the food. And in a moment of twisted irony that could only come from a fundamentalist reality star, he complains about his reading material, making a point to mention that he is spending his time reading his Bible in solitary confinement. Even from behind bars, he is instinctively trying to perform, playing the role of the persecuted Christian martyr, attempting to project an image of spiritual superiority while completely ignoring the monstrous reality of why he is locked in a cage to begin with. On the other end of the line, Kendra's tone is equally chilling. The sweet, innocent giggle is entirely gone, replaced by a cold, calculating demeanor as she discusses her private safe house. She talks about dodging the media, avoiding the paparazzi, and securing her own comfort. She's entirely focused on the logistics of her own immediate situation. But it is not what they say that has left millions of listeners absolutely horrified. It is what they do not say. In the background of Kendra's audio, you can distinctly hear the faint, unmistakable sounds of children playing. You hear the noise of the very same toddlers and young kids who just endured the trauma of having their home raided by police, their bedroom doors unbolted by state authorities, and their parents hauled away in handcuffs. The children are right there, within earshot, existing in a state of unimaginable upheaval. And yet, amidst the chaotic background noise and the agonizing reality of their destroyed family, the ultimate chilling omission occurs. In a phone call that lasts nearly 5 minutes, neither parent asks, "How are the kids holding up?" Joseph never once says, "Tell them Daddy loves them." Kendra never offers, "The kids are crying for you, but I'm holding them tight." They do not discuss counseling. They do not discuss comforting them. They do not even acknowledge their physical existence. It is as if the 4 children they paraded around on television simply ceased to exist the moment they were no longer useful as props for their brand. The silence regarding the children is deafening. It is a psychological black hole that sucks in every single lie they ever told about family values. The public listened to this audio and collectively realized the terrifying truth. These children were completely invisible to their own parents during the most traumatic week of their lives. The moment the audio hit the mainstream, the scramble for damage control began, and it was a spectacle of absolute desperation. The Duggar PR machine, along with their loyal army of fundamentalist apologists, went into overdrive trying to spin the unspinnable. They flooded social media comment sections, forum boards, and family blogs with exclusive theories designed to excuse the inexcusable. The first defense they rolled out was the shock narrative. Apologists claimed that Joseph and Kendra were simply in a state of profound psychological shock, completely traumatized by the sudden arrests, and therefore incapable of thinking clearly. They argued that when human beings are in fight or flight mode, they only focus on immediate survival, which is why they only discuss lawyers and living arrangements. When the public didn't buy that excuse, the apologists pivoted to a more calculated legal defense. They started aggressively pushing the narrative that Joseph and Kendra had been strictly advised by their high-priced defense attorneys not to discuss the children or any sensitive custody matters on a recorded jailhouse line. They claimed it was a strategic move to prevent the prosecution from using their words against them in family court. They tried to frame the chilling silence not as neglect, but as highly disciplined legal caution. But the public saw right through the spin. Legal experts and child psychologists immediately began tearing these excuses apart. Yes, a lawyer will tell you not to discuss the intricate details of a criminal case or a custody battle on a recorded line. But no lawyer in the history of the world has ever told a parent that it is illegal or detrimental to simply ask, "Are my children safe?" No legal counsel has ever advised a mother or father to withhold the words, "I love you," from their traumatized kids. You do not compromise a legal defense by demonstrating basic, fundamental human empathy. The damage control completely backfired because the excuses only highlighted the exact problem the audio exposed. Everything in their lives, including their relationship with their children, was viewed through the lens of legal strategy, public relations, and self-preservation. The damage was irreversibly done. The public finally saw exactly where their priorities truly lie. When the protective shell of the IBLP compound was stripped away and the cameras stopped rolling, the truth was laid bare for the entire world to hear. Joseph and Kendra Duggar are not the loving, devoted, child-centric parents they claim to be for a decade on national television. They are individuals utterly consumed by their own survival, deeply conditioned by a cult that views children as objects, and completely devoid of the natural, protective instincts that define true parenthood. The facade didn't just crack, it shattered into a million pieces, leaving behind a terrifying audio recording that will haunt their legacy forever. The true, enduring tragedy of this entire horrifying saga does not lie in the shattered marriage, the canceled television contracts, or the public humiliation of a once untouchable reality TV dynasty. The ultimate betrayal here is not between a husband and a wife turning on each other in the face of criminal charges. The most agonizing, unforgivable betrayal is the one committed by these parents against their own flesh and blood. When you strip away the courtroom drama and the media circus, what remains is the dark, devastating reality of 4 young, innocent children who were entirely abandoned emotionally by the 2 people fundamentally designed to protect them. The psychological isolation these children must be experiencing is unfathomable. They were raised in an incredibly insular environment, taught that the outside world is inherently evil, and that their parents were their absolute spiritual and physical authorities. And then, in a matter of days, that entire universe was violently ripped apart by police raids and flashing sirens. Yet, when given the golden opportunity to reach out, to show even a sliver of maternal or paternal instinct, Joseph and Kendra chose absolute silence. By focusing entirely on their own comfort, complaining about jail food, and plotting their legal strategies, they inadvertently achieved something catastrophic for their own defense. They perfectly proved the state's case against them. Prosecutors in family court and criminal court look for patterns of behavior. They look for evidence of a parent's state of mind. Our exclusive theories on this legal battle suggest that the prosecution does not even need to rely solely on the physical, terrifying evidence of the locks installed on the outside of the children's bedroom doors to prove neglect and endangerment. The audio recording of that jailhouse phone call does the heavy lifting for them. It demonstrates beyond a shadow of a legal doubt that Joseph and Kendra lack the most basic, foundational parental instincts. The state argued that these children were treated like prisoners in their own home, managed like property rather than nurtured like human beings. And what did the parents do on a recorded line? They treated the children as if they did not exist, showing zero emotional attachment. They handed the authorities the smoking gun that justifies permanently removing these kids from their toxic, dangerous grip. It is a betrayal so profound that it borders on the sociopathic. They threw their children to the wolves of the state foster system and simply looked the other way, more concerned with reading a Bible in solitary confinement than living out the actual teachings of love and protection that the Bible demands. And this brings us to the ultimate, staggering, almost cinematic irony of this entire catastrophe. We are talking about the Duggar family. We are talking about a couple who built their entire fame, their massive fortune, and their global platform on the literal concept of counting children. The television empire that birthed them was quite literally titled 19 Kids and Counting. The entire premise of their public existence, the core philosophy of the quiverful movement they preached to millions, was that every single child is an individual miracle to be celebrated, documented, and constantly acknowledged. They monetized the act of procreation. They sold books, went on speaking tours, and raked in massive TLC paychecks by portraying themselves as the ultimate experts in child rearing. Joseph and Kendra were supposed to be the pristine, untarnished successors to Jim Bob and Michelle's legacy. They were the ones carrying the torch, rapidly expanding their own brood to prove that the system works. Yet, when the walls closed in, when the cameras were forcibly shut off, and the reality of an unforgiving prison cell became their new normal, the ultimate irony was exposed for the whole world to see. The couple who built their entire identity on counting kids couldn't even be bothered to count to 4 when their world was crashing down. They completely forgot about the very human beings that made them famous. The brand was a lie. The sweet, acoustic guitar-backed television specials were a meticulously produced fraud, masking a cold, calculating, and fundamentally abusive belief system that discards children the moment they become a liability. As we watch the final, pathetic ashes of the Duggar television dynasty blow away in the wind of this massive scandal, we are left staring at the innocent victims left behind, the children who were used as props and then discarded in the silence of a county jail phone call. Did that leaked phone call send chills down your spine too? Why do you think they completely ignored the topic of their children? Sound off in the comments below.